So, second Ezra, Ezra 7 and 19. All right. And it reads, it says, and he said unto me, there is no judge above the Most High, and none that hath understanding above the highest. All right. And when it comes to you devils, all right, diabolos, you slanderers, you put yourself above the Most High, the Creator, because what you said, His laws didn't matter. Your laws is what matters. You know, and it's, you know, the scriptures say, you know, he set his mouth against the heavens. You know, and this is him speaking great things. Okay, but the Most High is the judge, right? There's no judge above the Most High. Okay, so your laws weren't better than his. Okay, your laws ain't more prominent. Your laws don't bring forth life and eternity. Your laws bring forth death, confusion, a spiral of confusion and corruption. Verse 20, for there be many that perish in this life because they despise the law of the Most High that is set before them. Okay, because his law is life, is perfect. And of course, we couldn't keep it perfectly because we didn't have the perfect heart to do so. We didn't have the perfect bodies, but we will in due time. All right. And that was the result of us going into slavery. That was the result of us being cursed because we didn't keep that law. How much more when you take it upon yourself and say you're Christian or you're God's chosen people, but you cast all his words behind him. You spit in his face. Not only that, but you kill his chosen, who he punished for a time being. But ultimately, we knew, you know, through the grace of the Lord, Yahweh Basham Yahushai, and his mercy, that eventually, you know, that ass whooping or that curse would come to an end. But you inflicted more pain with the thought that you were going to completely erase God out of the picture and establish your worldview, your laws. And look where it's leading the world, into utter destruction. We're on the brink of war or world war, which, you know, you had Donald Trump saying that he single-handedly stopped, you know, World War III. Well, you speaking against prophecy, buddy. We'll see how far that gets you. Verse 21, for the Most High hath given straight commandment to such as come what they should do to live, even as they came, and what they should observe to avoid punishment. And let me tell you, you've done enough, Esau, Edom. All right, so-called white man. You've done enough to bring upon yourself punishment and a swift judgment. Because the Lord is trying your works now. You establish yourself above him and your ways above the Most High. You didn't give no reverence to the Most High Yahweh Basham Yahushai. You put yourself first. So the Lord is going to try your works, meaning he's going to prove whether or not, you know, you are who you say you are. And we know who you are. We know exactly who you are. Okay, so let's go back.
Through law.
Yeah, we know through law he frameth deceit. You know, he frameth mischief. Okay, the laws you have set up, you use those laws to bring forth mischief, to bring forth deceit. Hell, every law that you created to forge yourself in the world and to benefit yourself, it's a falsality. It's you know, It's fraudulent. Almost everything. And in fact, everything. In the 1820s, Chief Justice John Marshall of the U.S. Supreme Court cited the doctrine of discovery to justify American sovereignty. Let's look a little bit more into it. Here, I believe. Did I ask him? You gotta ask intelligence. All right. Let's see here. Let me open up. You know what? I got this. So bear with me, Salakia. What is the doctrine of discovery? It says doctrine of discovery is one of the most important and often hidden concepts that shape colonialism in the Americas and beyond. It's not just a historical footnote. It set the legal and theological foundation for European conquest, indigenous dispossession, and later U.S. property law. Okay. And you forged, conquest through your law. All right. Or you forged the law to bring forth conquest. Definition: the doctrine of discovery is a set of principles that originated in the late 15th century, under which Christian European nations claim sovereignty over non-Christian lands they discovered. and the doctrine of discovery still holds true in the hearts of these Edomites, the so-called white people, right? And that's why when we talk about the things that we've been through and the horrific things and the horrific crimes that were done to us, you got apologists like Vocab Malone. They completely ignore what we say. They completely overlook what we're saying because they believe they have the moral high ground, right? And that they were essentially, appointed by God to do what they are doing. Okay. They do have one fact. You were appointed, but you're not justified in anything that you've done. And your judgment is going to prove it. It says, when a Christian European power discovered land not ruled by Christians, they gained the legal right to claim, conquer, and exploit it, even if indigenous peoples were already lived there. The doctrine was justified through papal bulls, all right, official decrees of the Catholic Church, and later became embedded in European and international law. Key origins, all right, Dum Diversas. I did a lesson on that a few years ago. When those Catholics, those young Catholic boys were mocking that Gadite man who was basically protesting, okay, and they was really fucking with him, and that was during the time that Chief Kefram, that's what we call him Chief Kefram, the pull-up boys, that's when he was out there, and he was he was on the front page on the front page of the newspapers, and he gloated about that, like it was something, and we know that guy, he kind of put himself, he really has a bad reputation when it comes to that, you don't really have a good name when it comes to this truth, because guys like him, kind of set this truth to be blamed, all right. But anyway, so Romanus Pontifex, all right. So Dum Diversas authorized the Portuguese to invade, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens and pagans, because that's what they identified as, okay. and placed them into perpetual slavery. Romanus Pontifex, 1455, gave Portugal rights to claim lands along the West Africa coast and subjugate non-Christians there. Okay. Enter K. Terra, all right, if I'm saying it right, 1493, issued by Pope Alexander VI after Columbus's voyage. It gave Spain the divine right to colonize Americas, all right, convert indigenous peoples to Christianity and subdue barbarous nations, all right. And really, nowhere in the scriptures really, and by example, when the Israelites, our foreparents, when they conquered the Canaanites, they were told to do one thing, to eliminate them, take them completely out. We didn't convert anybody, and although we didn't destroy everybody like we were supposed to, they became, pretty much our slaves, but we still had a law. We still had laws that essentially gave them somewhat protection, from tyranny. Okay. But even in the scriptures, man, you won't find that what Esau is doing is anywhere near the code of scripture. Okay. And the code of the law, the Lord's law. Okay. So let's go back, because we can go forever. Let's go back to this. Okay. Because I'm only doing the first 10 minutes of this, and we have 5 minutes so far. So let's continue, because I do want to touch on what I asked ChatGPT and just deal, just to shed light on the mindset of these Edomites.
Chief Justice John Marshall basically said, in simple terms, we are sovereign because of the Doctrine of Discovery. We have the right to govern this land because we discovered it. And he wasn't talking about we in the American sense, he was talking about we in the white man sense. And that therefore, those nations that were here, those Indian nations that were here, are now semi-sovereign nations. So they're no longer sovereign. They are dependent upon our sovereignty, our willingness to let them retain some elements of sovereignty.
It's relevant because not only is it basically the root of the whole structure of property law in Canada and the United States and Australia, for instance, but it is thoroughly enmeshed in the structures of our law so deeply that it's often difficult to even spot it.
This fiction, this hidden foundation still lives with us because we don't assume, by and large, that Indigenous peoples today are primitive or have lower social skills on this kind of hierarchy of civilizations. But nevertheless, the law continues to assume that sovereignty of the crown is paramount, that crown title is underlying all of our land, when in fact that comes from nowhere. It comes from just an assertion.
Yeah, and that assertion was the slander and calling the natives savages. And they still rule by this means, all right, the doctrine of discovery. Okay, all the laws is pretty much, based on it. And that's why you see, these Edomites, kicking people out of the land, because they feel like they have exclusive rights. It all kind of goes back to this. But again, it was predicated on a false narrative, a false, fraudulent statement. All right. And stigmatization, stigma, a false stigma given to the tribes in order to justify the rape, the raping, the serial raping, the serial murdering, all right, of these people, innocent or not. All right. There's laws in the Bible and guidelines for a reason, And you know, you're gonna pay for it. Okay, you're gonna pay for it.
Underlying question is how, in the Canadian context, for instance, where does the Crown get its right to hold underlying title for all lands, which is the way that our law is structured? Where does the Crown get its jurisdiction over all matters? And there's this sense that this came out of the ether. It was always thus. Starting at the time of the first colonial incursions into the Americas, there had to be justification. Why did the colonial powers have the right to take over these lands and assert their sovereignty or their jurisdiction? What did they do about the fact that there were people here already who were living in, using these lands, exercising their own laws, having their own political structures? There had to be some sort of justification to allow that colonial authority to be asserted.
Yep. Yep. And I believe it's going to get into it.
Sadness surrounds me. Traveling through Aboriginal homeland, see things that others can't. Longhouses, smoke bellowing from center, surrounded by wooden palisades. Brown woman tending to three sisters, the corn, the beans, the squash. Men wandering through the bush, hunting for deer and other sustenance. Children running through the woods, playing games, laughing.
Humans. Humans. All right? And what they're showing you is the human nature of the tribes of the Northern Kingdom, the Gadates, the so-called indigenous, the so-called North American Indian. All right? In the Seminole Indian, in the Mexican. All right? In the Argentinian, all right, in the Brazilian, and so on and so forth, and those that be in the islands. Humanity, laughter, playing, hunting, survival. Okay, all of those things. All right, but Esau came with his pseudoscience. You know, his victimization. All right, the villain victimizing, but now he wants to play the victim like everybody is out to get him. And in reality, as the scriptures say, God is not mocked. That which a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So you're being reproached for the sake of your fathers. And the scriptures say you shall not feel quietness in your belly. Okay, so the Lord is making it to where you're going to have to, you're going to be grieved by our witness, and ultimately you're gonna try to get rid of us once and for all, because it's just too grievous for you to behold. Wisdom of Solomon in the second chapter. Okay.
Mohawk River flows, Creator's artery, bringing fish for harvest, and a waterway for travel. Can smell the sweetgrass, the strawberries, the first fruits of summer.
That's right. It wasn't an empty land. And for them to say they discovered it, it's just a slap in the face. It's a spit in the face. It's a gun in the face.
We occupied the whole Turtle Island, U.S. and Canada, North America. And our nations and our people were granted inherent rights by the Creator.
It wasn't an empty land, and there were lots of government sort of structures. The Mi'kmaq had different provinces. They used to come together and, regular meetings. The 5 nations and then the 6 nations of the Iroquois Confederacy. These were people who were mostly farmers.
In Ontario, it's estimated that there was about 90 to 110,000 people living here when the Europeans came in. When the Jesuits, for instance, came in 1615, along with Samuel de Champlain, encountered the Wendat people, the Huron. There they lived as 40,000 people between what's now Barrie, Orillia, and Collingwood. and they were in villages of 2,000 people, and there were 200 miles of roads that were connecting these villages.
And you even got scholars who, took, pretty much paid witness to these civilizations. They got books. They wrote about these civilizations. And, so it wasn't, you want the world to believe that they were savages. You want to, you got people like Matt Walsh and these Christian nationalists and these apologetic Christians who, for the most part, just ignore the civility of others because, their character is deep rooted and, just being narcissistic or, and I looked in ChatGPT and I got the terminology for it, but you were the real savages. And just because you were able to pave a road, all right, everything that you've gotten, everything that advanced your society, your slaves made it. You just took credit for it because, of course, it's your kingdom.
And there were trade routes everywhere. They found parrot feathers in the Arctic. The trade routes were the incredible way of getting around and ensuring that people were able to survive. So if you got all of this territory in corn from the early Haudenosaunee peoples, and you've got northern hunters with moose meat and deer meat, and there's going to be trade. This area was settled because of the wealth of the waters as well, not just the land.
We were highly organized and structured in our governing systems, and we had the kinship clan systems of the various nations on Turtle Island, and really major functions, duties, and responsibilities of each of the clans in the kinship clan system that formed the basis of how we structured our governing systems.
The essence of the clan system is that you respect the gifts that different people bring. And so some people are really good hunters, and some people are really good cooks, and some people are really good with money, and some people are good intellectuals. And the essence of the clan system is you respect what each of them bring, and collectively we figure it out.
What I often refer to is who made the laws, who made the rules. The female side, the grandma, the moms made the rules in the family, the home, and the community. And as men, we had to enforce them.
The whole concept of buying and selling land was a foreign concept to us. We didn't believe in it.
Yeah, Esau came in with that. But that was never a thing. The Lord gave us an inheritance. An inheritance, that's your land. And the scriptures tell you that, the Lord divided to the nations, their inheritance, meaning their lands. You're not supposed to encroach on anyone else's land. So where was your, where was your antennas? When this was going down? Or I should say, where the hell was you drawing from? Where were you getting your understanding from when it came to, land and how you should, the order about, keeping the land? All right. The scriptures is clear. Deuteronomy 32:8. When the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. All right. So the Lord set up inheritance for the nations. So this is just an example. The Israelites and their neighboring nations. He divided to the nations their inheritance. And when you go to the word inheritance, it's dealing with the land. So he gave you your land. And the scriptures tell you you're not supposed to remove your neighbor's landmark. Marquee is a law, is a principle. Right? It says here, to get a possession. What was the possession? The land. Acquire, inherit, possess. See here. Calls to inherit. Because that land, it says to be allotted. A lot. All right. A plot. So that land was given to you. So what? So you could raise your children. Look, it says very frequently used of the children of Israel acquiring possession of. Right. So you can pass it down. Okay? That's the point. All right? So that there wouldn't be no end to all the nations. But Esau, you cut the nations off. You cut them off by taking their land. What kind of sleazeball shit is that? You know, it don't make you fucking great. All right? It don't make you fucking great. It make you covetous. It makes you a piece of shit. You know, and to parade yourself in the earth like you the fucking greatest thing since, you know, sliced bread, as they say. It's just fucking absurd, man. All right? And that's why you on your way out. You ain't got to wonder why you on your way out. God is not mocked. That which a man soweth, that shall be also reap. Look at that. Deuteronomy 27:17. This is, by the way, this law is eternal, motherfucker. Excuse my language, but it's eternal. Okay? So that means that this law is going to always exist. And you can't bypass it. You can't, you know, overlook it. Because eventually you're going to be cursed. And that's for damn sure. All right. Because, you know, now you're divided as a people. You know, you're completely and utterly corrupt. You done lost your everlasting mind. You know, you're losing your wit and your wisdom every day because of the things you set in order and the devices you bring in the past. Deuteronomy 27:17. Cursed be he that removeth his neighbor's landmark. And all the people shall say, amen. Proverbs 22:28. Remove not the ancient landmark which thy fathers have set. You've destroyed land. You destroyed the landmarks. You destroyed all the most sacred things. And even though some of it was, idolatry. Okay. All right. And that's what the Lord raised you up so that he can punish the children of Israel. Okay. All right. Proverbs 23:10 says the same thing. Remove not the old landmarks and enter not into the fields of the fatherless. That's what you've done. You murdered the fatherless. You raped them. And soon you can't stand none of this we're saying. So you're going to have to take us off the airways. I forgot Deuteronomy 19:14. Thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's landmark, which they of old time have set in thine inheritance, which thou shalt inherit in the land that the Lord Yahweh thy God giveth thee to possess it. And no matter what law and whatever pseudoscience and whatever justification you brought, you still broke it. And the Lord's going to break you to the likes of something we've never seen in the earth before. He's going to break you. And the whole earth is going to witness it and tremble in fear. You know, this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 10, verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. Goodbye, America. Goodbye. Why is earth and ashes so proud? Excuse me. Why is earth and ashes proud? There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. And this is what you are. You was covetous because you envied and you wanted what everybody else had. And you had to put your hands to everybody to take what's theirs. And you still believe to this day you have the right to take what's not yours. Covetous, inordinately desirous to obtain and possess. Avaricious, all right? Desirous, covetous, okay? Passionate desire, eagerness, ambition, okay? And that's you've eagerly taken down everything that's not yours, okay? All right? The desire of possessing more than we have of any good thing whatsoever, of which we have already enough for our uses. And now you coming in with this new world order, and you want to take everything from everyone that God gave. Well, he's going to take everything from you that you don't exist no more, and that you be cut off. Okay. Let's see here. Obadiah 1:10, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Don't worry about the future world to come. You won't be a part of it. That's for certain. That's for certain, my dear brother. Our dear brother Esau. Don't you worry about it. Let's see here. Here, let me see. Zechariah 5:3. All right. Then said he unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. All right. Remember Isaiah 24, where it says, they brought a curse upon themselves. Isaiah 24:4 said, the earth mourneth and fadeth away, the world languisheth and fadeth away, the haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, and that's Esau. You inhabiting the earth, you defiling it, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore, the curse devoured the earth. All right, and it's devouring the earth right now. With the world waning the way it is, but the ultimate curse is the judgments that's coming upon you. Okay. Zechariah 5:3, then said he unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. I will bring it forth, said the Lord Yahweh of hosts of armies, and it shall enter into the house of the thief. What's going to enter into the house of the thief? That roll. I see a flying roll. That's what Zechariah says. All right. And that's a spaceship. Chariots of God. Okay, that's what's coming for you. I will bring it forth, said the Lord of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, and it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. Okay. So with that, I'm gonna have to cut this lesson. All right. Lord willing, it's edifying. Okay. And I'll see you next time. Shalom.